Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special video. It's FPL Eve, the night before Fantasy Christmas, and it's a very exciting time in the fantasy calendar, and it's become a bit of a tradition. We did this last year, and we're doing it this year, so that makes it a tradition, I guess. We're going to do something we're calling the Big Reveal. So, welcome to the Big Reveal, everyone. And I've got with me three very special FFUKers. I've got with me James Downey. How you doing, James?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very
Excellent.
good.
Good to have you with us.
Very
And I've
excited about Christmas.
Very good. Good to get excited. And we've got Ronnie Friel as well. How you doing, Ronnie?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. The tension is palpable.
Excellent. And I've also got Peter, obviously. My what should we call you? Let's just call you Peter. Welcome, Peter. How you doing?
What an intro. I'm good, thanks. How the devil are you, Chris? Are you buzzing?
I am buzzing, actually, and I think when we do this video as well, it will help us get even more, hopefully, finalising our teams and getting really even more excited for the new season.
I have a suspicion that it may make things worse.
Do you think?
Could do.
I distinctly remember last year thinking this was a really good way of kind of helping me come to my decisions. So, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, it worked for you.
Well, yeah, it did. It worked this time, last time. So we'll see. Before we just get into it, I guess there's a few little bits of housekeeping. It's obviously is the day before we the league, the deadline passes, and therefore the league will then close. We're around 250 teams at the moment in the league, which is pretty good. There are some non-payers that I think we'll probably need to kick. And with obviously the last day's activity, I'm hopeful that we might beat last season's total. Last 24 hours, which we're in now, usually get a reasonable uptake, don't we, Pete?
Yeah, usually a load.
Yeah, so hopefully that will happen, and if that's the case, we'll have some really good numbers. So that's really exciting. We've got the cons is filling up really nicely. I think there's about 65, nearly 70 people in the cons. We've got 3 leagues almost full of head-to-head for some head-to-head battles this season. So there's some really fruity action on the way. With that done and those sort of housekeeping bits done, let's get to some fruity action and talk about some action that's happened today. And Lukaku has signed for Chelsea. It was obviously been rumoured for ages. But it's finally happened, and he's also been priced up at 11.5, which is, we should talk about that, I think, first. So first thoughts on the price and maybe the role and what you see as Lukaku's potential in this this Chelsea team. Ronnie, have you got thoughts on Lukaku?
Yeah, so we had a brief discussion earlier on in the chat around it. I think for Lukaku, the big talking point is actually going to be where he gets priced up. I think if he's towards what he was previously at United a few years back, he was up at 11.5. If he's in that kind of echelon,
that's what he is. That's what he is. Yeah.
Is it confirmed?
So, yeah, I
think it's very, very difficult at the moment to make a case for Lukaku as possibly a third premium purchase. Just purely on the stats. If you're thinking about captaining your premium, if you're looking at 3 within your team, I think it becomes quite a challenge to make that work.
Sorry to interrupt, but he will be playing for a far better team, Ronnie. I think that's worth bearing in mind.
Well, to be honest, I did some stats on it similar to what I'd done for Kane to understand what that kind of PPM value would look like and what his return would need to be to even get close to the likes of the mid-range guys, your Jimenez, your Ings and the like. And Lukaku's looking at having to score upwards of 350 points this season. Not allowing for captain's choices.
Oh, with captaincy, yeah.
So, and this is the issue. I think this is one of the issues that I've really been tussling with in the development of my own team this year. It's about how many premium options can you take towards that £11 million, £12 million mark and make it count in terms of the efficiency of the value, because you can only cap one. and it's that cap that ultimately makes a lot of the gains for you statistically on the efficiency modelling. So
well,
I think
we'll
it's a
see that
challenge.
we'll see that in your team, Ronnie, when we look at your team, hopefully. So, James, what about you? What about your views on Lukaku?
Well, in fantasy football, I'm pretty sure I had him when he was at Everton and not when he was at United. And I still, to this day, think he's a poor man's Benteke.
Okay. Right. So you're not going to have him in your team, whatever happens.
No,
There's a Chelsea double.
Off.
Chelsea double.
Yeah,
and
if he
Lukaku's
kicks
playing,
off, I will.
Okay.
But
so you might have to retract that statement. You might have to retract that statement if that happens.
I'm kind of only joking, but when he first broke on the scene, I did actually think Benteke is a much better player. But I've eaten my words because Lukaku is really kicked on.
Would that be because Benteke was playing for Villa at the time?
Well, there was that, but he was banging goals in every week.
He had an amazing season.
Brilliant.
He had an amazing couple of seasons.
He was.
And he was a fantasy goal, but he was never 11.5 million, was he?
No, of course not. I'm not the biggest fan, but if he's banging goals in, getting on the end of if he has as many chances as Werner had, he'll get 20 plus goals. But
okay. And Pete, okay, we better come to you about your thoughts on Lukaku. And obviously, everyone knows you and me are Chelsea fans, so it's slightly different for us. And it's sort of, I've definitely got mixed feelings. I don't know how you feel about it. It feels like sort of going back with an ex or something like.
Nah. Well, no? I mean, I'm full of optimism at the moment, so I think it's a very exciting transfer. Just hope it works out. I can imagine he could, in theory, he can equal the sort of performance of someone like Kane quite easily. You know, he doesn't have to do, much more than he has done in his best season. What
Kane did last season? Kane scored like goals and got assists last season. I don't know. I mean, I hope you're right, but yeah, we haven't seen that before from Lukaku. He's in patches. He's done it for sure.
Yeah. Full of optimism. I think Chelsea have looked amazing without him. Certainly, in pre-season in patches, they've looked really, really dominant, and I think he can only add to that. There's a bit of a question mark over the shape of the team. I'll give you a early bit of reveal, which is that I basically planned to have money to bring him straight in, but I've sort of got over that today. I just don't think it's worth bringing him before about game week 4 or 5, and only then if he's scored against some of the big guns.
That thing of also bringing him, having that plan. I've heard this before a few times about having 3 million in the bank when you start in game week 1, and it's like, why would you do that? Why would you give you? No, but I've heard it as an option, and I just think it's better to go full steam in on the first week and then make the change in the second week if you can, rather than planning for it and having the money there when something else could happen. Salah could get injured, and what are you going to do then? You'll have so much money in the bank, you won't know what to do with it.
But but like Ronnie suggests, like having Bruno and someone asked in the FFUK group, Sam Blake, earlier, having Bruno, Salah and an 11.5 mil striker, or him or Kane, is a lot to squeeze in. You have to really compromise on players. So unless we get a couple of players, like the Vardy and Mahrez of the Leicester winning season, it's just not doable to get 3 of those in and have a sensible team around them. So we'll see. I hope he has an amazing first season back.
Yeah, I do. Obviously, from a personal point of view and a Chelsea point of view.
Just going back quickly on what you said, Chris, it's like getting back with an ex, but they are so much hotter now. I've done a lot of work, so much hotter.
You've also done all your money though, surely, like spending 100 million on them. But yeah, I suppose you've got unlimited money, so it's okay.
Will they put as much effort
in this scenario, this very strange Roman Abramovich scenario? But yes, I've got I think he's exactly what we need in some ways. I wish we'd have got Haaland instead, obviously, because I think he's got potential to go even even further than Lukaku will. But for the next 2-3 years, Lukaku, if he can score 25 goals in the Premier League, which is a big ask, but I think it's what we should expect of him. 25 goals in the Premier League, 30 overall for 3 seasons. That's what we should be looking at if he's to be seen as a success. And yeah, if he can do that, then brilliant. And I'll tell you what, we will be considering him for our fantasy teams if he starts doing that. So especially in game week 7, where Chelsea have got a really naff opening run, and we're going to get to the big reveal. Let's move. Let's go. Should we just go to the big reveal? That's what people are tuning in for. None of this Lukaku rubbish. They want to see our teams. So yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna go to the big reveal screen. Okay, and I need to hold on a minute. That's the one. Right. Okay. First up is Ronnie's team. Can you see that? Yeah, we can. Yeah, excellent. Sorry, I was on another tab there. It's come up massive on my big screen as well. So I've got a very good view of this. And I haven't looked at any of these teams. I think it's best that we look at them fresh. So Ronnie, talk us through it, and then we'll perhaps come back at you with some questions. And
sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose the best place to start is where my team development started, I suppose, and I'd like to think most people that are viewing this can view it in the same context as the blog that I'd updated recently, the Reloaded blog, around that conceptual piece about true points per million. So what I've tried to do is establish a spine of the team and then work out where the efficiencies lie, similar to what I was discussing about Lukaku there. How do you maximise every 0.5 or every million that I'm spending within the team, rather than thinking so much about who the sexy players are or who I would like in my actual team in real life, because ultimately that's kind of irrelevant for the mechanics of this game structure. It's really about where the price point is and where the what the average points have been through their history. I've tried to do it over 3 years. Obviously, that varies depending upon if it's the Leeds team or last year, you only got 1 year's data. But anyway, so moving on, you see Sanchez and goal there. It was a no-brainer initially. It kind of remains the same, simply because of the first few fixtures. I was really quite keen on trying to remember his name at Crystal Palace. Is it Guaita?
Guaita, yeah.
Yeah, his efficiency stats are actually excellent from the previous seasons. I think if I remember correctly, it's one set of stats that I had on him.
And this is all in your.
It's actually 3
in your article.
It sits there.
Yeah.
So he's got 3 years worth of stats. He's averaging 114 points per season. He's only costing 4.5 mil. So it was very close between, as I say, Guaita and Sanchez. I've opted to go for Sanchez simply because of the initial game weeks.
Yeah,
it kind of, as I said, and forget.
Palace have got some hard
There's so many variables. Yeah, exactly. New manager, you don't know what's going to be happening there. There's so many variables. So, and just to confirm it, so I've backed that up there with Steele. Initially, it was the big man himself that's in the FFUK, just for a bit of fun.
Begovic.
Begovic. But I just thought, on the basis, I wanted to get someone in that had minimal ownership, simply on the basis if it's a Foster or the like. If he starts getting sold at 20%, then you could see a drop there, which would just frustrate me if you see a few. So that's it. So it's the two Brighton boys backing each other up. So moving into defence then. So Trent, I couldn't see past him. He's been in every draft that I've done so far. He was originally there with his partner in crime, Robbo. However, obviously, we'll get to that. The Robbo injury has changed team dynamics for quite a few people, I think. The Shaw one was, again, I feel like it's a no-brainer. At 55% ownership, it still doesn't even put me off. You know, after seeing what he did the second half of last season, just looked really strong. Really came on to some game. I think his stats are essentially reflective of just how much of an improvement they had made last year. I've heard some chat about how close he is to Wan-Bissaka and whether there should be such a vast difference in ownership. But for me, pure stats look absolutely nailed on. And at 5.5, I genuinely think it's a pricing mistake from.
Well, he's the most popular player in the game, sure, at the moment.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'll be honest with you, Chris. I'd probably still have looked at Shaw at 6. It might have changed a couple of things. 6, maybe even 6.5. Don't know. He was that effective the second half of last season on the eye, you know. So that brings us on to
55.4% ownership, which is just crazy for a defender.
That is crazy. That is crazy scale.
What's the next couple of biggest? I guess Salah's up at about
Salah's 51. Salah's 51, but that's kind of expected.
Yeah,
it's Salah.
True. It's massive.
This isn't. Yeah, it's crazy.
Sure, I think it must be something to do with the Euros as well.
And the other, I mean, I'm just looking at the ownerships. And the other one, your goalkeeper Sanchez is a very popular goalkeeper. He's the second most popular goalkeeper pick because Foster is not a goalkeeper pick. He's just a 4.0. So 1 in 4 managers has got Sanchez, and I would imagine in the FFUK league that is a less than 1 in 4. I'd imagine it's more like 1 in 3. Probably got Sanchez. I think he's going to be a Brighton are a good defensive team. I mean,
absolutely.
Their numbers
Porter sets them up well. Yeah. You know, they've got Dunk back in there as well. He's back from injury, isn't he? I know they lost Ben White, but again, I think 4.5 million. I think they're looking good.
We'll see who else has got Sanchez out of us guys, and also absolutely. See if we've got any other Brighton players. But so let's talk about the Tsimikas position because that's going to come up more than once tonight. So
I've actually found this quite a challenge. Yeah, the Tsimikas thing was quite a challenge. It feels like I'm kind of setting myself up a little bit to have to move really quickly when Robbo comes in to avoid a price hit on him. You know, so if you're talking, I can't quite remember how long the game remains rigid for. Is it 8 days or something like that?
Before the prices start just moving? A few days. Just a few days.
Is that a few days?
Usually.
So, I mean, when Robbo comes back, I think Simicas's ownership is going to be such that you better be keeping an eye on the news. You know, keeping an eye on the indicators as to when that price change is going to come in. If you don't want to take a hit.
But at the same time as that, it feels like a gift. It feels like it's a 4.0 Liverpool.
Absolutely. It's essentially
fullback.
It's essentially allowing you to apply 2.5 million anywhere else in your team, you know, and get those associated points over the first maybe 2 or 3 game weeks, which feels like a gift, you know. It's going to take a little bit of work after a few game weeks, but I think it's well worth it. Soufal, again, just looking purely on the stats for Soufal, his efficiency ratings on what he generates as a defender were excellent. I mean, it was on that true points per million basis. It was he's up around 45, which is slightly higher than Van Dijk. In fact, he's only behind Cody, who was bang on 45, but Cody's actual return was quite a bit less. So again, you know me, I've been spouting it for quite a while now. I'm kind of sticking with my ethos that the game's in the stats and his efficiency that just warrants him being in there, particularly at the price point. I think he's 5 million, if I remember correctly. Cresswell was 5.5, but again, at the 5 million mark, it just feels good. You know, it lets me put that money elsewhere. Which brings us on to the midfield. This has been tough. Fernandes was not in my first draft, my second, my third, my fourth. To the point, you know, as I said, they only came in when the Robbo injury occurred. It feels a bit like FOMO. It really does. Because I watched them on the eye, that last 3 months of last season.
He wasn't great, yeah.
No, it just felt like it really dried up. The changes, obviously, that we are aware of in terms of penalty awards and things, I think are also going to affect them for this season coming. However, I still remember the guy that blasted into the scene midway through the season before last and took it by storm. So that's why he's there, you know.
Yeah.
Salah speaks for himself, and then Greenwood.
Absolutely.
This was tough. The £7.5 million bracket. Greenwood, I'll be honest, I was just discussing it earlier on this evening. Barnes is really in the forefront of my mind, as is Gundog. It could be any of those three. I don't think it's going to change. I am content as to why I've selected Greenwood, particularly what's going on at United in terms of the first fixtures and things. It just feels like any of those guys could really have a really barnstorming start to the season.
There's definitely options. Yeah, there's definitely options.
Yeah, there are. That price point
mid-range
this year is just. I mean, I think Barnes is undervalued. I think he could be. I don't know. He could be 8.5,
Greenwood
9.
certainly could be. Greenwood certainly could be, but it's all about game time, isn't it, and position for him maybe. But,
absolutely, yeah, that's it.
Exactly. Okay, what about your front line? Let's go through your front line.
Front line. Yeah, so I suppose just to clarify, there's one point there. My team, my intended team is actually 3-4-3. Harrison will play. You see him on the bench at the moment, and that's once the Simicus thing passes, I'll become a 3-4-3. Harrison's in that midfield for one reason only, and it's the stats. I think it was a 160 point return last season. His numbers, as I put in the chat, his numbers more than Marioff against Rafinha. I think Rafinha had a great season. Love watching him play. However, it feels like there's quite a bandwagon on Rafinha at the moment when you look at the differential in ownership between the two guys when you break down what they're actually doing for the team. And then to save the $500,000, that's where Harrison came from, because that allowed me to do a bit more, as we're about to discuss going forward. So Danny Ings is always in my thoughts. I have him most seasons, to be honest. I've always found him a really useful tool.
When he's fit, yeah.
When he's fit, exactly. As it stands at the moment, I'll be honest, looking ahead, Villa's first 3 fixtures look really nice. My intention at this time, barring injury elsewhere or the like, is that Jimenez will come in if he proves his fitness and proves that he's the player he was. I'm going to be keeping an eye on his stats for the first few games, because Wolves then go into a really nice run. As I think I didn't mention it on live chat there, the Wolves manager looks like he's going to have them really far up the park. I think Jimenez could thrive, but again, so that's in the future. Antonio, again, you just mentioned injury concern. I've actually got injury concerns around Dan as well. However, at 7.5, it feels like a really good option. West Ham start well. Their FDR looks nice. Yeah, I feel confident that he could do a real job. They've bought well behind him. Is it Benrahma that's had a really cool season? Is it Benrahma?
Yeah, he's had a good pre-season. Yeah.
Looks good. Bowen looks good. Nobody spoke about Souček in the chat, which I'm amazed by, because I was very close to Souček over Harrison. It was the numbers that made the difference, to be honest. So that's why Ant's there. And then finally Wilson. When he's fit, again, his numbers are some of the best numbers in the Premier League. Everything at Newcastle goes through him. I think he was involved in 36 of the goals last season, something insane, you know. And that's why he's there. Again, really efficient use of the money. And then just to round it out, on the bench, Billy Gilmore feels like he's going to play. Feels like he could be that creative influence that they've sold after selling what's the guy that they sold to Aston Villa? Balbuena. Is it Balbuena? Buendia. So I feel that Gilmore's going to drop right into that role, that creative role. He looked really good at the Euros for the games we've seen him in, obviously before.
Oh yeah, you've obviously watched him for Scotland, yeah.
Well, knocked out, yeah. He looked great. Yeah, and then the last one's a complete punt. You know, this could have been anyone. It's been anyone, to be honest. It was Amarte until yesterday. Omabona, is it? He's simply there because yeah, he is simply there because he's played 100% of the time in pre-season. That's the only reason he's in there. It's just to get an extra player that may have to come off the bench at some point.
Cool.
And that, James,
That's your
There's
team.
that.
Awesome. So, and my dad has just messaged to know if there's any money in the bank there, Ronnie. And I guess we should say that for each of our teams. Or have you spent a lot?
I have spent a lot. I had a few.
Good.
I did have a few pounds in my previous iteration before the Robbo became Fernandez, but I've spent a lot. It's a really good question actually, because one of the discomforts I have in my team is the lack of a Son, Rash,
Which you can't get to very easily.
That price point. See that the 9.5 price point. However, to be honest with you, my intention is that down the line, I will sell Fernandez unless he goes on fire, and bring in either Rashford or the new guy at United. What's his name? From Dortmund.
Oh, Sancho.
Sancho. It'll be Rash or Sancho, and then that money, I've got an idea as to where that will be distributed.
Okay, brilliant.
So nothing in the bank.
Yeah, let's move on to James's team and see if how different it looks. Now, Ronnie, you've obviously got no Premier League team you back because you're a Bournemouth fan and a Celtic fan. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a Celtic fan and a Bournemouth fan.
Sorry, I get it the wrong way around. Terrible, yeah. But the next team you see, I'm assuming, is going to have about 6 Aston Villa players in that some have moved on loan.
If I could.
Okay, so let's go through it. Let's have a look at James's team. As I say, Villa fan, so definitely going to be a couple of Villa players in here, I think. So, James, where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, I've midway through last season, I kind of realised that there's more strategy, and I started playing the game a bit differently. So this team is really only set up for 3 weeks, and I know that I'm going to wild card in the first international break because there's enough of a fixture swing for the players that I really wanted. Just quickly, Sanchez in goals. Same reason as Ronnie's, guaranteed. Brighton are pretty good. Tomiskas was Robertson, and I didn't have Bruno in, and I was really happy not having Bruno in, but I started to get really scared, as I think everyone does. And when the money came up from Robertson to Tomiskas, was like enough to squeeze Bruno in. But the ones that I'm not happy with, because Target 3-week punt, he might go down to a 4.5 because I could really do with that 0.5. But there aren't too many fullbacks, I don't think, with as good first 3 games as Villa have got. Yeah. And
what about Ashley Young?
I also think, I don't think he's going to play necessarily. I think it'll be Cash and Target, but I do think Villa might go with 5 at the back. I can see because Axel's there now. It was brilliant at Villa before in the Championship, and everybody loves him at the club. So it was great that he was back. So I think Villa's fullbacks could really push on. And also, Leon Bailey's only started training today, so there's no way they can bring him straight in as a winger. So I do think they'll probably go with 5 at the back to start with, and with 2 up front by the sounds of it.
So that's how he's going to get. That's how he's going to get Watkins and Ings in up together.
Apparently,
Who would those 3 be at the back then? They'd be what, Mings?
There'll be Mings, Axel, and Konza.
Okay, so
that's how I think it's going to be. But Buendia's a bit of an injury risk as well, which is quite annoying.
Yeah, so when Buendia does come in,
then full training.
And when Buendia comes back, so you've got Buendia, and what are you thinking if he doesn't play? You've got a cover, or?
Well, if Buendia, to be honest, I don't really want Grealish in, and it's not the Aston Villa thing. It's not that. I wanted a Chelsea player for the first week, so I really want to have Havertz, but I've got to find an extra 0.5 from somewhere. because obviously I've spent every penny possible. And swap him to Mahrez would be my ideal thing. And I could do that before I had Fernandes in. That was my plan. But that's been thrown up a bit. If Buendia is injured, I'll probably change him to Smith Rowe, and then I've got loads of money to play with.
Okay.
So, and then I can do the Mahrez and the Havertz to Mahrez swap between game weeks 1 and 2. Greenwood's in. I think he's going to have a good season. I think he's going to start because I don't think Sancho's going to start. And Cavani was in my team as a third forward. I had it all slightly differently, but I understand Cavani's not there's a question mark over Cavani, and I know he only started training last week. So I could see Greenwood either playing out wide or even as the forward if they're not trusting Martial. Yeah, who knows with that one. And then Ings, because I'm biased towards Aston Villa. I'm the first to admit that, and I'm really excited by that signing. 12 months ago, Danny Ings going to Villa just wouldn't have happened, would it? Let's be honest, he'd have gone no way. So it's a marquee signing for Villa, and he knows where the net is, and he is really good. I did have Watkins, and I'd still be happy with Watkins if it is 2 up front. But if things aren't going well, he'll revert back to 3 and Watkins will be out wide. He'll still play and he'll still get the minutes, but he'll be out wide. And Antonio's first 3 games look really good. So, yeah, and that's why he's there. And the guys on the bench, I'm a bit worried about Marty's value dropping. Veltman, I'm probably going to swap. I don't really want to have 2 Brightons, but I just don't know who to. But it'll be another. See, I could squeeze him down to another 4 million non-playing defender, but then I'm literally going to have 3 non-players on the bench.
That's pretty risky,
And yeah, it's too. Who knows? So I'd like to have a 4.5 playing, just in case. And then
so you've got how many positions would you say you've got that you're not 100% convinced about?
Right.
Don't worry about
11.
The bench. Don't worry.
11.
No, don't worry about the bench. But on
in
your first 11, how many have you got that you think
joking.
Tomorrow could be different?
I only think 2 could be swapped. So Grealish, Buendia, if he's injured, will go out. Grealish could swap around, and Target is a question mark. But I'm more than happy with him. So the core is all going to say the same. The forwards, I'd say 2 or 3, depending on hopefully we'll get some news at the press conferences. I know Dean Smith's really good at giving out, really being open and being honest about the Villa players. But,
he wouldn't want to give James. He wouldn't want to give any fantasy football players an advantage, would he?
Good point, mate. Well, he has given the best advice: live in the real world. Come on, guys.
Well, we're clearly not doing that, though, are we? So, well, James, I like it. I think it's got definitely similarities to my team. Players, I like it. I think. But I think Buendia is maybe risky.
It's only 3 weeks. Okay. I know that I'm going to work hard on between game weeks 3 and 4, because I want to get a couple of Chelsea boys in early, and there's a couple of other things like more leads, and I really want Rafinha and things. They're brilliant, but for the first 3 games, it's not worth it for me. Because I know
you're playing the fixtures. You're definitely playing the fixtures with your team, but you've got not much cover.
And I've never done that before.
Not much cover on the bench.
No,
as you say, you're attacking it, and I can't really talk you out of that because that's kind of what I want to do as well. So maybe we'll see if my way of doing it's any different. But okay, let's move on to the next team. Peter, you're next. Thank you for waiting patiently.
It's been my pleasure to listen.
Good.
And take some tips from the other two. So I'll be
absolutely. That's what this is all about.
A couple of players that I'll be squeezing in.
Oh, good. So you're right. So already you gave me a team about 10 minutes before we started that was different to the team you gave me about 3 hours before we started.
Absolutely.
So would you like to talk about the original team, or the one that you changed to, or the one that's in your head?
Well, they're all quite difficult. Let's look at the most recent team.
Is it that one?
No, I've got rid of Tony. Tragic.
That one. That's it.
Yeah, I've sort of entered into the twilight zone.
It's about that time. It's about that time. We're 36 minutes in. So yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
one player I'm definitely going to put in. I'll bring in Steele for Gunnarsson. I might as well do that. I've just had a look, and that new keeper that Brighton have signed is injured, so I might as well just go with those two. Thanks for that, Ronnie.
Okay.
Obviously, I've got quite a few that are the same. I am more than happy to have any 4 million defender that's got a chance of playing in the team. So Liverpool defenders at 4 million is a no-brainer. I'm still not 100% sure that Milner won't randomly come in for him. I think that could easily happen.
Yeah, there's a slight chance. I think there's a slight chance, but we're percentage playing, aren't we, with Tsimikas?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be quite happy to play White tomorrow, although I do think every chance, especially first game of the season, that Brentford could nick a goal. I think Tony looks good value on paper at 6.5 million, but I haven't looked that good in pre-season. I have watched them, and I wasn't particularly excited by them. So I've sort of talked myself out of Tony, which means I have to change my team name as well, which is annoying. So Digne, he's actually been in for like virtually the whole time. They've got really good fixtures to start off with. Supposed to be a bit tighter with Benitez. He likes to play a bit more defensive. I have to go for the sexy players some of the time. So I've tried to. I think it was built. Was it Harvey's article going on like a core? I suppose Ronnie touched on it as well. So my core there is Sanchez, TAA and Shaw, Salah and Fernandes, all well-owned, solid players. You know, I can't, other than Kane or Lukaku, I can't see anyone else being captain this season at the moment. I think Salah is just going to be a go-to captain. He's been so consistent. Which sort of takes one problem out of the equation. I was really, really solid on my attackers, and I think Watkins, Bamford, DCL all scored really well for quite reasonable money last season. I think Bamford I'll end up changing because of the fixtures at the start. Well, I think there's every chance, Antonio. I think Antonio is a good pick for 6.5 mil. He's got form in pre-season as well, which might make me lean towards him, to be honest. But then I've got a little bit of extra money. But originally, that was my core, is sort of 3 of those sort of 4 mid-price strikers plus Sanchez, TAA, Shaw, Salah, Fernandes, and the rest are sort of sprinkled around for various reasons. So, for example, Zaha has looked really good in pre-season. Again, he's on pens. In the matches I've watched them, they've looked lively as a team. I think there's every chance they nick a goal against Chelsea at the weekend. I'm a little bugged by the fixtures going on from that. I think he, again, could be a really good value. But, before you say it, Chris, he is one of those players that always manages to let you down. He's never consistent. Yeah,
he's definitely let me down. But on paper, I think he's a bit.
Exactly.
Do you know what? I've been let down, and I've had that kind of I'm never having him again. But I completely get. I mean, maybe not for the Chelsea first game, but like every other fixture is okay for them. They're sort of off and on, and he's the sort of player as well who can score against good teams because he's a really good player on his day. So the big question is if he's going to have a good season, because on his best day he's an option.
Yeah.
On his unfortunately normally he's not. But...
He's another sexy X, isn't he?
Yeah, sort of. That kind of, yeah.
He went and came back a lot better.
Well, he went to Man United. Oh, yes, yeah,
not a lot better.
I see what you mean. Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Like some of my exes as well. It blows very hot, cold as well. So I love.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyone you want to big up or say hi to?
I didn't think they blew, but
one game, he's really, really good, and the next one, just nothing happens,
Okay. I'm not sure what we're talking about.
Zaha. Some food for thought on Zaha. So last season, total 136 points. Season before, 120. So he's averaging 128 points a year. That's not good. 7 mil.
Not good. Not good enough.
Nah, and you're right. He has those crazy purple patches. Yeah.
You get him for the right 3 games, 4 games, then fine. But
if we're talking about minimising or maximising our EV and using variance, minimising
efficiency
variance.
Value is that?
Then it's like
all the new terminology this evening, Ronnie. Efficiency modelling is brilliant.
Have you not read his article?
I have. There's some bits I just did. EV, sorry.
I don't know. Yeah, these
What's
guys.
EV?
It's expected value over a period.
Expected value. Okay.
And then you've that thing called variance that detracts from expected value.
I mean, I've heard that word before.
Yeah. It's just food for thought, Pete.
Yeah, man. No, he won't be there tomorrow. He won't be there.
Are you taking him out? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not trying to.
Okay, so let's ask you the same question. Let's ask you the same question I asked James. And how many players there in the first 11 are you going to swap round? Probably, you think.
3, maybe.
Switch 3. So you Zaha, Watkins, Bamford.
No, I think Bamford's going to go because of the fixtures at the start. I quite like Watkins.
So, okay.
And I just can't stump up the extra 0.5 mil for Ings. And he's new to the team. I don't know if he's going to come. He might come in and start smashing them in straight away. But yeah, I just like the tried and testedness of that. I guess I'm a bit unsettled on formation. So this team's got $1.5 million in the bank.
Oh wow! Okay, so that's worth.
So
knowing.
I could save half a mil somewhere on Bamford.
Or Bamford.
Yeah. Sorry. So Bamford, Zaha, and upgrade Brownhill, and then I can bench. So I can play 3-5-2. I've got Tsimikas. If I do 3-5-2, I've got Tsimikas and White on the bench, which I'm finding really confusing tonight because but I just don't want to bench a 6 mil, 6.5 mil mid. Although again, so Dina's fixture, Liverpool's fixture, they look like a guaranteed clean sheet, but we just know it doesn't work like that, and clean sheets are often unpredictable. So I might be inclined to go with a forward, an attacking player instead of a Tsimikas. But that's basically about it. So I think there's every chance Obafemi will come on and play. I've decided pretty early on that I'm going to have that 4.5 mil third striker for until the first wild card to find out where the value is. More guaranteed players at the likes of Shaw and TAA in more teams rather than trying to pick the forward that's going to get the goals early on. So yeah, I mean it's pretty much there. I've really wish I didn't do it, but yeah, all day today I've been like, why don't I just have a look at this player? Or so many different combinations I've had in there. And I would quite like Tony for tomorrow night. I always like to play a player in the first match, especially if it's on telly as well.
Silly like superstitions like that, isn't it? Or not
I mean, it doesn't necessarily work, but it's just fun. It just adds the fun element.
But that first game could be, I don't know, Burnley, Newcastle, and we'd all be breaking ourselves to get Burnley and Newcastle players.
Too right. I mean, I've looked at Wood today.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
To be honest, Pete, Wood is actually...
Wood's not bad.
Mate, I was
just
watching
reveal Wood.
Watching the WhatsApp. I was watching the WhatsApp chat when we had some of the banter about Wood. Do you know what? Wood over the last 3 seasons is averaging 135 points per season for 7 mil.
Yeah.
It gives him a points per million of 39.
He's on pens, isn't he?
It's not as silly as it sounds.
If he was 6 or 6.5, I'd probably do it, to be honest.
Well, he was last season.
He was, wasn't he? And
he pushed it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to hold a striker that only gets, that isn't streaky, but will get you those consistent points. But
yeah, absolutely, it really is. All right, I'm conscious of time a little bit, so let's move on to my team.
Excited.
Pete, obviously yours is a work in progress, no problem. But you've got the basis there, haven't you? Really?
I think it'll be pretty much like that tomorrow. Yeah. I think Zaha and Bamford will go, but yeah, otherwise it's pretty much there.
Okay, so we'll go to my team. It's the same. It's 3-5-2. So I don't know if so that's James's formation, same formation. Now I need to have with a little caveat here, like you've done. I think 2 of these players are changing in my first 11 because I've been changing them in my head for the last kind of few days. And the 2 players we've got the same TAA, Shaw, Tsimikas, and Salah. And Fernandez. So I think that's kind of. I think all of us have had those 5. Is that right? Yeah, that's amazing.
I don't have Shaw.
You don't have Shaw. Okay, but basically, there's definitely a consensus that we've all had those kind of players. So there's kind of no point to keep talking about them. But yeah, Torres and Greenwood are the 2 that Rafinha's been in my team since the beginning, and I kind of think I love him as a player, and he's on every set piece for Leeds. I'm just going to leave him in. I know the fixtures aren't right. But he feels like when I watch him, he just feels like a player I want to own, and there's definitely a little bit of something with him that isn't necessarily stats based, although he kind of does all right with the stats. When the prices came out, he was the first player I was like, that's I'm having him if I can all season if he plays well. Torres and Greenwood were the ones I've been battling with for the last hour or so. So before they were Torres and Greenwood, they were Barnes and Grealish. Which I like, but I'm just not like you, James. I'm not sure about Grealish's role, and even if he starts, there is a question mark over whether he starts on the weekend. And then before that, I had Mahrez and Sarr, which I like because I really like Mahrez for the first maybe 2 games. I like you, James. I'm pretty much focusing on the first 2 or 3 games, and then happy to wildcard. Probably, I'd like to wildcard after the game week 3, but I'm happy to go.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. Did you just say you are willing to put Mahrez in your team, even in theory?
Yes. Well, yes. This is the problem.
He's burnt you quite badly before.
He was the reason I had my worst season before I had my best season last season. So maybe he taught me, in some indirect way that I had to be careful with the Mahrez ownership. He's not just a player you own willy-nilly. Like, he's dangerous to own. Now, that's why I've got Torres at the moment in this team, because Torres is dangerous. If you look at that team, it's fine, except as soon as you see Torres, you go, oh my God, he's got Torres. Surely that's really risky. But Torres is 7 million and he's going to be playing up front for Man City if he plays. Now, if he plays, that is an absolute no-brainer. They're going to blow away teams in the first 3 or 4 games. I'm convinced of that. And, Grealish is another option, but he's not a player that blows teams away. He's not that kind of player. Mahrez has got that capability. But the one who we saw it from a few times is Torres. And he could be about to have a breakthrough season. And I love that kind of idea, that romantic idea of picking a player that could explode, that hopefully, Torres' ownership, it's really low. And it's that but it's so risky because even if he starts against Spurs and gets a goal, which is doing very, very well, you say a goal a game for a striker, brilliant. Even if he does that, absolutely no guarantee he starts against Norwich the following week, which is what
against Norwich he could get a hat trick or he won't play. Simple
but
as that.
My counter argument to that is putting Mahrez in, and I know what Mahrez is. Mahrez could score again against Tottenham on Saturday or Sunday, and then be dropped for the Norwich game. It's almost as likely. It's less likely because Mahrez is more of a senior player, but it's almost as likely. So, yeah, that's basically I'm battling with Grealish, Mahrez, or Torres, and whichever one I choose of those three will decide the midfielder I go for. It'll either be Sarr, Barnes, or Greenwood. Except if I go Sarr, I can't have Parika on the bench because I've got 2 Watford goalkeepers. Because I'm for some reason backing Watford, and I'm not sure why, but I've got a Brighton defender. So I think I'm kind of covered. And it's interesting because definitely a lot of those players have come up. I think I'm the only one with Rafinha, the only one with Torres, but all those other players in the first 11 have all been picked by others. Antonio feels like a good pick for the beginning of the season. And Ings, I'm just going for, again, because he's got that explosive factor if he plays. I mean, there has to be a doubt that he starts, doesn't there, James Ings?
Well, but especially with Watkins having a slight knock, and Ings played the last friendly, so he's had minutes, and I don't know if he will do the 90, but I think he'll definitely have some part in the game.
Yeah.
So
I think my 11 kind of it's not quite there. I do think this is really productive, like for me anyway, just to see other people's teams and talk about them. Feels like we get somewhere. The bench players are throw them up in the air and they could fall down as different players, definitely. But Veltman I like at the moment, although there is rumours of Brighton buying another centre back. So that's basically it. We've got one more team to show you. And that is going to be the most owned team. So what you might call the template. And I think that's useful to see just because I don't even know if this is within budget. It probably is looking at it. Oh, no. It's got Kane, Salah, Fernandes.
I would quite like that.
Yeah, it's not in budget. Okay. So it's a bit irrelevant actually, but those are the most owned players. Diaz, none of us have got.
It looks good.
Son, none of us have got. Mount, none of us have got. And I don't think any of us have got Tony or Kane. I mean, why anyone's got Kane at the moment? It's madness. But yeah, no, I found this useful. Hopefully you have, guys. We've taken up 53 minutes already, so we probably should start wrapping up soon. I know Pete's got something he wants to do at the end of the show. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, any final thoughts, James, really, before we wrap up? And I'll go to Ronnie after.
Just good luck to everybody. And I hope you all finished behind me.
Yeah, well, that's very honest. And Ronnie, what about you? Any final words? Just a few hours to go.
Yeah, sure. So I don't think you've heard me speak tonight. And you've heard my chat in the WhatsApp, and you read my article, and everything is generally about stats. But one of the kind of things that I'm really going to concentrate on this year, I've briefly mentioned it in the chat, is the psychology of decision making. So I'm going to impart that for everyone to give a little bit of consideration to why they make the decisions they do, where they make them, and when they make them. And just have a little think about it, because I genuinely think that you could be talking about the differential of hundreds of thousands of places if you consider your decision making, the psychology of decisions. That's my imparting words. And good luck to everyone.
Thank you, Ronnie. Okay, so my final words, because I'm going to let Pete close this out. My final words are, absolutely. So, very exciting. Thanks, everyone, for obviously joining the league who has. Really looking forward to the start of the season. Let's hope it's a good one. Yeah, and also just check out the website if you're still watching. We've got loads of pre-season content up there, including Ronnie's Matrix Reloaded article, which is definitely worth a look. And then also today we've had the results of our big pre-season survey, which is a really good new article that Amit's written. So yeah, loads of stuff up there. So yeah, with that, Peter, over to you for any final thoughts or final words, really, before. And obviously, this is a momentous moment, really, because we are within hours of game week 1 deadline. So it just feels like it's just so exciting.
Well, taking the cue, I definitely want to reiterate, good luck to everyone this season. Hope everyone has a fantastic season and loads of fun. It's great to be a part of FFUK, and feeling optimism about that. If not about my team. I've got some inspiring quotes to share with you guys just before we go. So I'll start with this one. Success is not owned, it's rented, and rent is due every day. Another one for you. I've only got a few of these. Be yourself.
Okay.
I've got 3 more. Okay, always drink upstream from the herd.
Like that
yes.
one. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. That's
Wait for this one. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Apparently, that's Mike Tyson.
That is Mike Tyson. Yeah, I've heard that.
And to finish, the most important thing is to never stop questioning.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, well, on that note, we'll see you later. Thanks very much, everyone.
Tinker away.
Tinker on.